Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg Shepard, and I will be presenting you today with my flight scenario presentation for our AVI 320 class through Liberty University. So, starting out, just to give an overview of my scenario for today, what we'll be doing is renting an aircraft with a friend. Uh, where are we going? We're going to go up to OKC, renting a Cessna 172. And one of the first questions I will ask is, are we current? So to be IFR current, I need to have had 6 instrument approaches within the past 6 months and holding and intercepting and tracking procedures also. So with having those 6, I would have to have those either in the aircraft or in a simulator. I do not need to have the CFI with me. If I do it in an aircraft with a view limiting device, I need to have a safety pilot with me. That safety pilot has to either be current and the current or has to be current in the aircraft that we will be flying, and they need to be at least a private pilot. Also, they need to have their medical and make sure that that's current and good to go. Uh, Asking the question, so just because you're current doesn't mean that you're proficient. Right? So how do I make sure that I'm proficient? I need to make sure that I'm actually going out and flying instrument procedures and conditions on a regular basis, because just like anything else, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. Um, and so I just need to make sure that we're staying on top of that, make sure that we're studying, make sure that we stay on top of everything that we need to do, and make sure that we're good to go on that. And so the next question is what are our plans? So when I think about this, I just think of, are we going somewhere just for fun? Are we going to actually or do we actually need to be there for a certain reason? Because that's really going to be the determining factor on like the external factors on whether or not we push it. Is should this flight be taken today or should it be pushed back? Those are all decisions that are going to be made based on like what our plans are for this flight. So the next thing I'm going to do is pre-flight planning. So I need to check the weather. So how do I check the weather? I could use ForeFlight. I could use any of the FAA approved sites. Flightplans.com is another one that I could use. But my go-to is to call a weather briefer. And so when I call that weather briefer, sorry about that, when I call the weather briefer, I'm going to make sure that they have, or that I have up ForeFlight and have up my briefing guide, because I want to go through it at the same time that they're kind of going through their information, because I want to make sure I understand everything. And if there's any questions that I have, I want to make sure that I get those covered. So I want to, after checking that weather, I'm going to check, to make sure that there's not any weather projected when I get there, while I'm en route, after I arrive, the hangout time, and then on the flight back. Those are all the things I want to check. So, um, am I going to need an alternate? So, when is an alternate required? An alternate is required if within 1 hour before my estimated arrival and 1 hour after my estimated arrival, the weather conditions for the destination aren't at least ceilings of 2,000 feet or 3 statute miles of visibility. If they're outside of that, then I need to have an alternate, and that alternate's weather on a precision approach, because on this flight, we're going to make sure that we choose an alternate that has an instrument approach. So on a precision approach, I need the ceilings to be at least 600 feet and 2 statute miles of visibility. On a non-precision approach, I need to make sure that the um, it is 800 feet ceilings and 2 statute miles of visibility. Uh, if they're outside of this, then I'm not going to want to use this as my alternate. And really, if the weather's outside of this, I'm probably not going to make this flight for that day. Um, Another thing that I'll take into consideration is when I'm checking that weather is what are my personal minimums. Me personally, being a new instrument rated pilot, my minimums are pretty conservative. So if the ceilings are below 5,000 feet and visibility is below 5 miles, then I'm not going to take that flight. Now, if I have a more experienced instrument rated pilot with me, an instructor pilot, then I'm probably more comfortable. But if not, then I'm just going to keep my minimums where they're at. Next, the type of aircraft. So how much is it going to cost? Are we going to have the money to cover it? Are we rated to fly this aircraft as a single engine aircraft? My rating is a single engine instrument rated pilot. So is it single engine? Have I flown the aircraft before? Am I familiar with the system inside of it? I've flown on six pack steam gauge. Is it a G1000 that I'm unfamiliar with? All these are things to take into consideration. What's the useful load? There's me and my buddy, if we have some bags with us or we plan on staying for a little while, is it going to give me a aft CG, a forward CG? What are we looking like? We'll get all that considered once we do our weight and balance, taking in the weather considerations, how much runway we need for just to keep that in mind on our route of flight, and so on and so forth. When it comes to the inspections, I'm going to want to make sure that the aircraft is airworthy. So I want to make sure that the annual inspection has been done. I'm going to ask to see the logs on that. I'm going to make sure that the VOR, if we're flying an IFR that day, has been inspected in the last 30 days. If not, then I'm going to have to do one once we get airborne. I want to make sure that there's the 100-hour inspection that has been done on the aircraft to make sure that it's current. I want to make sure the transponder and the pedostatic system has been inspected in the last 24 months, and then also the ELT. Just in case there's an emergency of any type, I want to make sure that that's current and good to go, and if the batteries need to be changed on that. Also, I'm going to check for the airworthiness certificate, the registration, the operator's manual, and then also the weight and balance that was done by the A&P to make sure that that's with the aircraft. And last but not least, I want to make sure that the aircraft is equipped with all the VFR and IFR equipment that we need, and make sure that it's current on all of that equipment. This flight in particular, the weather's looking kind of rough, so we want to make sure we have all the VFR day and night equipment, the IFR equipment, make sure we have generators, make sure we have a rate of turn coordinator. Our altimeter is a sensitive altimeter that we can set in the Colesman window and be able to set that. Our ball coordinator, which will be covered in our turn coordinator. Um, and then a clock that's been installed on the aircraft that's digital or has a sweeping second and minute hand, a attitude indicator that is working and good to go, our rate of turn, which will be on the aircraft, and then finally our directional gyros. Make sure that those are good and set for that aircraft. So those are all the things that I'm going to look for when I'm looking at the aircraft. In conclusion, thorough planning leads to a good flight. So that goes without being said. If you do a thorough planning and you make the decision that the flight is good, weather's a little bit rough, but with having an instructor pilot or somebody who's more experienced, then we'll go ahead and make the flight. If weather's not looking good, then we'll just call off the flight and do it another day. There's never a reason why we should push it beyond our comfort zone in order to get a flight going that may not be the best choice for us. That's all that I have. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation, and